Hello again. Let's see.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
I think.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I didn't
I
know.
think. Are we starting? All right.
On mute.
Am I on mute? Are we on mute? Can you hear me?
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
Right in the email, it says like when we go somewhere, like be on silent or be
Oh,
quiet,
okay.
basically.
Okay. So maybe we should be quiet right now.
Maybe.
This chat. Oh, we are now live. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Anderson Lam with the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. I'm one of the programming consultants there, and we're very honored to have the cast and crew of All About Dad, directed by Mark Tran here on Zoom, and I believe on Facebook Live as well. I'm sure many of you here who are participating in the Q&A have watched the film, which is interesting. We screened the film back at the festival almost over a decade ago. I think 2009, right, Mark?
Right. Yeah.
So it's great to revisit this film as part of the virtual showcase. Obviously, this all came together to have this online festival in place of the usual film festival that would be happening right now. But that festival will happen at a later date. In the meantime, we have the virtual showcase, and we're very honored to have you guys here joining us. So I just want to say happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and welcome to, again, the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival Virtual Showcase presented by Visual Communications. From celebrating our histories and cultures to mobilizing our communities to be socially and politically active, we present the virtual showcase to keep us connected. This showcase is brought to you by our partners at Comcast, NBC Universal, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Nielsen, HBO, and Warner Media, National Geographic, and as always, just go to our website at vcmedia.org, vcmedia.org for more information. We'd also like to thank our community partners for this program. Thank you to our friends at VALA, Vietnamese American Arts and Letters Association, who present the annual Viet Film Fest, which happens every fall. So right now, the dates are October 9th to 11th in Orange County. So just for more information, go to vietfilmfest.com. Okay, so let's meet our panelists for today. Director Mark Tran is a Vietnamese American filmmaker born and raised in California as the youngest of 9 children. Mark has been making films since he was a teenager, sharing his unique perspective through his films, often featuring characters from underrepresented communities. David Huynh is an actor who has completed work on numerous films, including Am I Right by Stephen Scott Day, Band Aid by Justin Chandra, Cult by Wei Ling Chang, and Lights Out Chinatown by Mark Tran. I believe that's your latest film, right, Mark? Mm-hmm. David won a Special Jury Prize Award at the 2007 Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival for Outstanding Newcomer and Best Emerging Actor for his performance in Ju-Wan Chung's Baby, which also won a Special Jury Award for Best Feature-Length Film at the same festival. Namrisa Lee has acted in a variety of film, television, and theater projects over the years. You can watch her get murdered on American Horror Story, rat out a Chinese crime syndicate on Bosch, reported on Steve Carell's shortcomings on The Morning Show. So let's give a virtual round of applause to our cast and crew. Let's all give a clap to everyone. Hey. Thanks for coming. So you guys, so actually we'll start with Mark. This film, you guys, you I believe wrote the script. I mean, this film very much is, I guess, inspired by your life growing up in a Vietnamese American family in the San Jose area. I believe you were also going to university, but studying biology, I believe, right?
That's correct.
Just like Mark's character. So how did you? I mean, obviously that was the inspiration for the script, but what compelled you to actually write the script to begin with?
I had already decided that I wanted to make films, but it was just a matter of how would I be able to persuade my parents, like many of the generation, like more wanting their children to do professions like in medicine field or a lawyer, et cetera, like the minority. And so to deviate from that, like I needed a plan. So my half-baked plan was to make a film and direct it and then show them. I had already told them in advance, but that was the inspiration behind it.
So did you make the film while going to university as a biology major, or?
I had already changed my major, but I was in biology, and I had written the script. I think I was a sophomore when I written the script, and the professor that was helping me write the film really wanted to push it forward to become a film project for the school that is co-produced by the school and becomes an internship program to give students like myself an opportunity to work on a feature-length production. So we shot it right after I had graduated in 2007.
So was this did you write the script actually as a project or an assignment for like a screenwriting class?
Yeah.
Was that
yeah.
okay? Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's great. So which university was this? Which school was this?
San Jose State University.
San Jose State. Okay.
Yeah.
So and then you graduated. I guess your professor really championed it and really pushed you to get it made in collaboration with the school.
Yeah.
So how did you? David and Narissa, how did you get involved? Was it just an open casting call? And
how did you get involved, Narissa?
For me, it might have been like, it sounds really shady now, but it might have been like a Craigslist ad. It was just, yeah, was it? Yeah. I mean, my memory is a little rusty. It was a while ago, but yeah, I was living in Oakland, and it was like a post that I saw that they were casting a film in San Jose, and Oakland to San Jose. I mean, if you live in LA now, it's not a big deal, but I just remember being like, I have to drive 40 minutes to go. And yeah, just went to the audition, and yeah, just had a little bit of back and forth with Mark. He made me sing.
I think you made me, you had mentioned, oh great, not another student film, because I was babyface and 22 years old at the time when we were doing the audition.
Yeah, and I was a little babyface, and I think I probably had a little bit of a tune on. Yeah, I showed up. I didn't know it was a student film. I think I walked in and it was like, okay, this is one of those, just thinking I'm a little too big for my britches. I'm not. I would love to do a student film today. But yeah. And then it ended up being like a really, really amazing, fun 4 weeks.
How about you, David?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw like a breakdown in Backstage West when Backstage was like in a newspaper form. Now it's just everything's online, and I think I emailed, and I may have actually like post-mailed Mark like a headshot and resume, and it was like I think they were opening up auditions for people in the Bay Area and people are like in SoCal, and I was living in LA, and I thought, oh, we'll just see what happens. And then I think Mark sent me an email. I was like, hey, you want to send a tape? And I was like, okay. And this was 11 years ago when audition tapes weren't really common, and it was really difficult to do because we're like, well, how do I get it to you? I think YouTube was like very much like in its infancy. Yeah. And so I think I ended up doing a tape, and I somehow figured out a way to make like a really super grainy low res file, and I somehow uploaded it to some kind of database. It was really bizarre.
So, did anyone else want to chime in, or?
No, I'm just impressed by Mark's like, hey, I'm gonna need a tape from you. Like, how?
Yeah,
like,
so profesh.
It was so baby. Yeah.
I still have the tape, actually. I found it.
We should watch it right now.
Yeah, let's share your screen.
Right now.
I'll spare you, David.
So you got your actors. I mean, so how about the rest of the family? Just because of just from other Q&As in the past, you talked about casting, the father Chi Pham. As who plays the dad, all about dad. So, I mean, I heard it was very much a challenge. It's very rare to find, actors of that certain age who are also authentically from the community. So, can you just talk about that process?
Right. Very challenging to get someone that is 55 years plus. that is Vietnamese and American, or can speak both Vietnamese and English, and actually wants to be on screen just because, you know, films are a frivolous enterprise, according to the common misconception.
Yeah.
So to have him was a blessing. He was a first-time actor. He had never acted before, but how he got involved was because I had gone through, I think, Little Saigon area or Vietnam town, putting up flyers.
San Jose?
Yeah, and so we couldn't start production until we had the right father to play the role. And so I went around town with the cinematographer Todd, and we put up flyers looking for this specific role. He got the flyer, and he emailed me and he said, send me the script. Send me the script. He said, you know, first thing I want to call out is you said this was a comedy, but I don't think it's very funny. Here are some things that I would recommend. So he's already telling me what to do, and I was like, all right, let's see what he has. So he comes into the audition and he nailed it, and he proceeded to tell me all the things he would change about the film. Not only did he resemble the role, like he took it and like became that person.
Yeah.
And we were very lucky to have him.
So I mean, what was great about the film, that is that you guys, the family itself was very much, you guys played well off each other as siblings, with the rivalries and also, coping with, angry Asian parents and what have you. So, yeah. I mean, were there any kind of, you as the cast bonding as a family, how did you guys prepare for your roles as, brother and sister and whatnot? So, and also,
Mark definitely encouraged Min and I to be as much of a pain in the ass towards each other as possible. Mm-hmm. So we were always kind of playing pranks and whatnot. Yeah, I think we just kind of gravitated and kind of developed our own relationship throughout shooting and whatnot. Yeah. It's kind of just like an organic experience.
It was. It did. I mean, I'm. There must have been a little bit of planning on your end, Mark. I mean, I do remember we had the luxury of like a table read and like doing a little bit of rehearsing and like having meals together, going to eat pho after a read or something like that. I remember stuff like that, us just sort of like getting to know each other. But I think also too, like if you're lucky enough to shoot principal on a film, and if you're lucky enough to shoot it in 4 weeks, it's like camp, you're spending all day, 8 hours a day, if you're lucky, 10, 12, 15, 16 hours a day with the same people if it's an ensemble. So you just get to know each other, I think, really well. And
you can't help but fall into those dynamics of the characters that's written on the page and living through it. Can't help but do it anyway. So you really kind of end up being our brothers and sisters and kids to Chief M.
It definitely felt like a real family experience. I had the family portrait hung up in my apartment for quite a while.
Oh, I would love a copy.
Yeah.
So I mean, so you said you shot the film over a 4-week period. I mean, a lot of it takes place at this one location, the house and whatnot. So, I mean, just talking about, is that their family house that you shot at, or another person's house, or
we built a set? Actually, we built a set in the university theater.
Oh, cool.
And it was a set for the house. We did find an exterior house, which I'm not sure is obvious to many people, but it's a 1-story house while the set is a 2-story house.
2-story. Oh, interesting.
I found it a little late.
Don't bust yourself out, Mark.
Yeah. You knocked yourself out. Yeah. But it's okay, so it was just because of the, so building the set and what have you. I mean, obviously shooting in a controlled environment. So just what were some of the challenges that you had to face? I mean, aside from it being very low budget, what have you?
Low budget is probably everything, because that determines how much time you have, quality of the craft services, all that stuff. I think it's so important. Fortunately, we did have an amazing cast and crew that weren't concentrating on like the salary. And so everyone gave it their all no matter what, spent their 12 hours days on set. and continued to stay after to help clean up. And it was just kind of inspiring to see. And I look back at this film and always remember how hard everyone worked and like how proud we were when it was all said and done.
I mean, like Nanrisa said, it was very much like camp, right? So everyone was like, working together and having a great time. So for the actors, the story itself is, maybe David also being Vietnamese as well, and I'm Vietnamese, and like, just having, just the, kind of the universal themes of growing up with, refugee and immigrant parents. Can you just talk about what were some of the themes in the script that you resonate with you to help you develop your characters?
I mean, a lot of it, really. I think even from the first page, I was like, oh, this is like a weird, bizarro version of my own life, Well, I grew up in Canada. My parents met in Vancouver, and like my older brother was born in 1975. So they would have met like not much longer before that. So probably like 1974 or so. And so, you have this, I grew up with this old worldview of like, or my parents and whatnot. And there was always like a lack of communication. And so reading the script, I was like, oh, this is kind of like my family. Although in the script, they speak to each other more than my family, but I'm like, this is a movie, so they have to talk. So that makes sense. But, and then of course this kid wants to be a filmmaker, and well, that's exactly what I was doing in Canada before I moved to LA. So I'm like, this is me in a more washed down kind of world, a more digestible life. And so it's the themes of the movies was just like, oh, it's my life.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Nanrisa? Did you have a similar upbringing?
No, not really. I have one sibling. It was part of why it was so fun to shoot the movie, I think, is you have this big family and everybody's always talking and having a good time. And I have a pretty compact family. There's 4 of us, my parents and my brother. I love my brother. He's my favorite, but I don't know that he resembles anybody in the family. Except for maybe Swan, like my character, like he's very mellow, very chill, and does the right thing. I did not serve that role in my family. I had the other role, the different role, kind of. And I think my parents are pretty non-traditional. My dad is first generation from Korea via Chevy Chase, Maryland, and then he met my mom in Oakland. And my mom is from Hawaii. She's, I think, 4th generation out of Hawaii or something. And they stayed in Oakland where I was born and raised, and I grew up in a pretty metropolitan urban area. But I think the family dynamic, I think there's always certain things, right, in family dynamics that you can relate to. I think it's, one being having a hard time maybe speaking up for like, because of where you are in the family dynamic, standing up for yourself or saying the things that you want, and maybe just having a hard, it's always hard when you're like teens, 20. The older I get, the cooler I realize my parents are. But I think in my 20s and certainly before that, I didn't feel like I could talk to them, even if they felt like they were reaching out to me. It just felt like, I think it's that generational thing of not feeling understood or accepted. You get a little older and then you realize like, oh, your parents maybe went through some of the same stuff, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And you're like, oh wow, they were cool back then too.
Like, cool.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. Mark, how about, go ahead.
Quarantine, I'm like starting to look in a little bit more about the history of my family. I'm reading a book that my great grandmother wrote, and it's again, as a kid, like me being older now, I feel a little embarrassed that I was not more interested about this when I was younger. Wow. But I feel like it's all coming at the right time, and I feel like it's fascinating to learn about your own family because it's not like for parents, like I only ever see them in a very narrow, specific, like their only function is my mom and my dad. Like I don't see them as like whole humans, Yeah.
So your grandmother wrote a book, like published and everything?
Yeah, she did. She had a crazy life. Yeah. She wrote and published, I think, 4 books, and she was a prisoner of war. She founded a high school and college, which is now a university in Korea.
In Korea? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You want to give a shout out to the book so we can look it up?
Yeah, it's called September Monkey. It's written by Induk Pak,
Okay.
which is my middle name, Induk.
Okay, September Monkey.
Yeah, it's an autobiography. It's pretty
very cool.
Sorry to plug.
No, this is great. You know, like, it's like, yeah.
Since we're on the topic of books,
Yeah, please.
my brother is an author.
Oh.
And this is his book. It's a novella called, what's it called? The Forbidden Purple City. And it's a collection of short stories about the diaspora of Vietnamese in Canada and the United States. It's
cool.
very, very cool. And so I'm actually working on something with my brother and turning one of his stories into a script.
Oh.
Sorry, audience. I didn't mean to make it into a book club all of a sudden, but this is great. This is great stuff. Mark, do you have a book you can recommend? Or?
My dad actually published a autobiography.
All about that.
Yeah. So, this is great. So, you know, again, Mark, this is the film. You know, you directed it over a decade ago. How's it been? I mean, it went through the festival circuits, won prizes, and what have you. How's it been? You know, a decade later? I mean, I know you're working filmmaker yourself. You've done a lot of music videos, commercials, and whatnot. You work in the commercials industry. And then can you talk about just kind of like your creative process and how your journey has led, starting from All About Dad to now?
Sure, absolutely. Right after All About Dad, so long ago, but there were a lot of projects that were lined up following that. There was one that I think David, you and I were momentarily involved in called Saigon, California, but there were some problems with getting that fully financed.
Right.
There were other projects, very similar story, where yes, we're on board, we're ready to shoot. There's one TV pilot that got pulled out literally the day before production. So there was a string of that, bad luck. But fortunately, like I was able to continue still developing and writing projects. Spent a little bit of time with short films, and here I am now. I think over a decade later, I just produced a film called Lights Out Chinatown and got a chance to work with David again. And that was amazing. My process when it comes to film is, I think, as a writer, I like to have an idea that I can really extrapolate from. And I think having that initial idea, if it's something I can be passionate about, like it becomes a discovery process as well. So if it's something like a thesis, I go into it hoping I can discover a little bit about myself, because it's no longer a solo project anymore. It's working with other people and how these ideas react, how people react to this idea. So as an example, with our project with David, Lights Out Chinatown, it was more around refugees and feeling disenfranchisement as a refugee in America. And what does that feel like? What does it feel to be alone? And so we were workshopping that initial concept. And it became just a collaboration true to its form, not just an idea that I had written and executed on, and like everyone was a part of the process, but it truly was something that everyone worked on together and put their hearts in. And that's, to me, ideal kind of collaboration.
How about for the actors? I mean, you guys are, I guess, veterans now working in the industry, so to speak. How do you see the landscape now in developing your own projects, or have you,
Okay.
Lisa? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially you have such a amazing family history. You have published authors and
yeah,
families finding schools and POW and whatnot. This is like
I know.
stuff.
It's that, you know, I'm going to sound like a bonehead, but I pretty much ignored that until about 3 weeks ago. So it's like new discoveries kind of. I mean, I was aware of it, but I think, you know, I'll be honest. I'm pretty intimidated by the idea of creating something in terms of like writing and then trying to direct and produce it. I mean, I'm sure at some point I would love to do something like that. And I was chatting with my parents about the story of my great grandmother, but and I think that you're seeing some of that, right? In the what is that? We were talking about that series that's on Self-Made about CJ Walker, right? Like I think she's maybe the first African American self-made millionaire.
Yeah.
And it's interesting at the end credits, you see that it's like it was produced by a member of the family of a girl that she adopted later in life. So it's, you know, it's interesting to see. I do think that it's important that that those stories are out there, that people are aware of them. You know, like I never heard of CJ Walker before I watched that thing, and I think it's important. I think for you know, for women of color to be aware of that, and just the public in general, especially because that's a real person. Those are real things that happened. But having said that, at the moment, no, I'm not working on anything self-created. I think, you know, I think it's in this time, right, when people are isolating in quarantine, it's been a lot of conversations about what is this industry going to look like when we come out of this? How are we going to get around these rules? Is it ever going to be the same? And, you know, I think I've just been I feel like for me, it's just baby steps, just trying to like journal a little in the morning to, you know, get some of that stuff out, trying to like work on stuff as an actor to be available. But I do think I will say that like then to now, I think I'm still learning who I am, but also what I want to say to the world, how I want to represent myself in the world. And that's like an ever changing thing, right? We're always like growing, but I don't know. I feel like I'm mulling it over and thinking about it.
Right.
Next year.
David, you want to?
Yeah, you know, I mean, time is such a weird concept because we did this 11 years ago. I don't know what that means because it doesn't feel like it's been that long. And from what I remember, I mean, you know, being like a 25-year-old trying to get in the industry, I don't like, certainly more opportunities have unveiled itself to me. And I feel like I've seen a lot of more Asian American centric TV shows and directors being able to produce the material, especially like on Netflix and Amazon. And so, you know, things have exponentially changed, but like when you're in it, it's hard to really see the evolution of things. And I think even even just before this whole quarantine virus thing hit, it was there was definitely another change because we had an Oscar for best film was a Korean movie, right? It was amazing. And so now this has happened. And so it's like, okay, where's it going to go from here? And yeah, so when you're in it, it's like, it's hard to really see the changes.
Yeah. I've seen the forest from the trees, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was
but it's fine. Yeah. So, but you know, just taking this time right now to reflect and to think about all that stuff. But I am lucky because I am working on a project. The date, of course, to be determined once this whole thing is over. But I'm working on a film with this filmmaker, Alice Su, who she comes from an animation background. She actually won the Student Academy Award for Best Animation when she graduated in 2014. And so this is pretty cool. So I get to look forward to doing something as soon as this is over.
Did you want to add something?
Oh yeah, I was just going to talk about. I was going to say that I will say that from then to now, I mean, especially recently in the last several years, I feel like there is more content out there for Asian Americans in terms of like that I'm noticing is that I'm, working, if I book a gig or something, it's like I find that like there's a writer there that's like Asian or just meeting with people or producers, directors. It seems like there is more in the community. And I don't know if that's just because I've been in it a little bit longer, so I've had more opportunity to meet more people, or if this is something that is like there's more and more people that are really starting to break through. And it's really heartening to see, to see that and to be able to meet people and have conversations, with people that you can, stories you can relate to, or cultures that you can relate to, I think things like that. I think that I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who's an actor, and years ago, and he was very frustrated. He's Asian, about the lack of, nobody here, about the lack of roles for Asian men, and it's not untrue. And I think I would guess, I don't know the statistics, but I would guess it's harder for Asian, than it is for Asian women. They're even less represented than we are. And he was frustrated and he was upset. And I think he was talking about quitting the business, and he was really mad at the structure of it. And I was just like, look, it's totally valid and true, but I think, where is the issue, right? Like, can we be mad when, traditionally in the writers' rooms, it's a very specific age range and a very specific race. We're going to all be written through that lens because that's how they experience us, right? So what do we do? I think it's right, more Asian American writers and directors and producers, right? Yes, the actors are a part, but I think it's in the writing. You have to put that perspective out there, and you can't be mad if somebody else is trying to do it, but they're not doing it right because they're not from your culture, And I think that my personal experience has been meeting a lot more Asian American writers that are really motivated to get those stories out there, and more motivated, like really just out there grinding, trying to get it done.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to add anything?
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
Just because from my perspective as like a writer, I'm very limited to what kinds of content comes that's available based on, what's online, what people are sharing. But you are in a very unique position in that you do programming, and you see a lot of Asian American films based on the last 10, 15 years. Like, how do you feel about that? And like, what can you share?
That the output is greater. You see a lot of just film school type of projects that are being submitted to festivals and whatnot. So I think and just to be honest, I think like production is always, production design and cinematography, that's all top notch. And I think just because of the evolution of the equipment that's, the digital age and digital equipment, what have you. And then storytelling itself and, and all the other basic parts of that make a great film are definitely, I think it's just because of like, you just see a lot of inundated with, kind of media and content, and then, like, it's just the democratization of the medium. And you just see a lot of people can just pick up a camera and just start making. With that being said, I think there's a lot of greater output of content, but when it comes to the quality, it's just a little different. And I think it's just like, again, when making a film, it's always a miracle that a film is completed, and I mean, the outcome, if it's great, if it's good or not, if it's suitable for a particular marketplace, that depends. That's why we have critics and audiences and pundits and what have you. So. But yeah, I think it's like, you just see, and with just adding on to Narissa's like, just comments earlier, is like, you just see a lot more representation of Asian Pacific Americans behind the camera, in the writer's room, in development execs, producers, what have you. So you do see that kind of sea change. And I think it's a really interesting time, is because, yeah, people who are making decisions are the ones who are see from that particular lens, right? So, and share those experiences. And I think it's because it's just, I mean, because of, you know, kind of the rise of the streaming world, and, you know, purportedly there are like 500 television shows being produced now in Hollywood that, you know, it just doesn't have to be made for mainstream America, right? So that's what's really, you know, you see, like, you know, like in Netflix, you have Tiger Tail and the half of it, sorry, just, you know, released in 2 weeks, you know. So it's just like, and you see more and more projects like that. You see, yeah, again, Parasite was a total game changer. You see, kind of the, you know, diverse, a lot of diversity programs and initiatives, especially, you know, changing the guard when it comes to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences membership, you know. So, you know, so I think it's a good thing, but it's not, it can't be complacent. And I think it's like, at the end of the day, for me as a programmer, you just have to make a good film. Like, you know, that's the main thing, you know. So I think it's not easy at all. So it's but anyway, you know, going back to the film, we have a couple questions from the audience. Two from Todd von Hazel. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name. You know Todd? Okay.
Yeah.
What was the motivation for Dad yelling "Kai" at Mom?
That one was about getting a reaction from Mom to feel shock. I think we were recording her. We were on her close up, and this was during a critical point in the film towards the end where she just simply has had enough. And we were on a set full of, you know, non-Vietnamese who didn't understand the word, so we'd hear the word "kai kai kai" all the time because that's the phrase they pick up. Yeah. And so we needed her to like really feel physically rattled by him enough to reach a breaking point. So
got it.
I gave him an off-screen direction that is to be as forceful as you can. So much that when we were recording in the studio, it's like you could hear the echo, but we got the reaction we were looking for.
Also, do you have any cool or funny anecdotes about the family portrait in the living room?
That was my body. And we photoshopped David's face in it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
From the house.
There was
yeah, because we didn't have David yet.
He was the last person to join the cast, and there was a brief moment because we're having such a hard time casting for that character that I had considered playing that role. Fortunately, like, thank you so much, David, for joining, because that would have been a terrible film.
It's so funny. I remember that.
Oh, so was that your like your last resort, that you would be acting as?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Wow. Terrible idea.
You guys shot a spec trailer.
We did.
Before you shot the feature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like the majority was already cast, right? Except for, was Chief involved?
Chief was in it. You were the only one that wasn't cast yet at the time.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
Oh, David, you were the last holdout?
I guess so, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, because I remember Mark flew me from LA to San Jose and to meet him in person before they made decisions and did this like in-person audition. And I thought I did a pretty terrible job. And I was like really embarrassed. I thought, oh man, I just made him spend all this money to get me there. I was gonna go home. I felt really bad. And then Mark comes out of the room, he's like, sorry, man, sorry. You got the part.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of misleads while we were
classic.
I remember getting the direction once or twice, like, cut. Okay. Narissa, that was good. Let's see. Do it again, and this time, don't suck. Okay, action.
You guys are really I mean, obviously, I was quite obnoxious kid, but that was part of the fabric of how our like communication style. We were comfortable. We were kids. We're teasing each other, and that was where a lot of the comedy comes from. Like recognize each other as just people you can just, quote unquote, fuck with.
Yeah. It was a great environment. It was really fun. It was a good time.
So I got the word that we have to wrap up. Is there any final thoughts about the film? I mean, actually, the films have been out. Obviously it's it's part of the virtual showcase, but I believe it's available on Amazon Prime, right? Or
it's available on Amazon. I think it's a rental.
Okay.
And it's available on, I believe, Google Play.
Okay.
The last time checked, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts about the film, or maybe a shout out for what you guys are doing next post-COVID pandemic lockdown? Anyone want to chime in?
Yeah, just thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And then just post-COVID, something that was going into production that got put on hold was a feature that I'm doing called A Lot of Nothing with Ilan Noel from Insecure. And it'll be Mo McRae, who's an actor, will be directing it. I think it's his first feature he's directing. So.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Just thanks for watching. If you managed to come across the movie, it was a something special that we all kind of had to do. We did together. So it was appreciate it. And hopefully you guys will be able to see our project that Mark and I did just recently. So hopefully that'll get
right. Lights Out Chinatown, right?
Yeah.
So it's gone on the festival circuit, so to speak, right? So
it premiered in March at Disorient Film Festival in Portland, Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, we unfortunately couldn't make it just because this was when lockdowns were happening.
Right.
But they wanted to do an encore screening, which means Lights Out Chinatown will be available this week. It should be available online to screen for 4 days or so.
Okay, at the Disorient Film Festival.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So people can just look it up online.
Yeah.
Okay. Very exciting. Mark, anything aside from that?
Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you, Anderson. Really had a great time reconnecting and reminiscing over old anecdotal experiences that we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, with the virtual showcase, we're just racking our brains. Like, okay, what should we do? Should just bring in classics from our past festival editions, and I was like, yeah, all about that. That was a fun film. I just remember the uproarious crowds and the fun Q&As and seeing you guys on the festival circuit. Especially, it was really, really fun time. So I'm just glad that we were able to make this happen. So thank you for sharing your story with us. And just some final thoughts about everyone. Please support our extended family in Little Tokyo. Please check out Go Little Tokyo for the hashtag LoveLT campaign. Learn how you can support the restaurants and businesses there. And for more information about visual communications, go to vcmedia.org. All right.
Hey. Hi, everybody. My name is Francis. Your Executive Director of Visual Communications. Usually we celebrate Anderson's birthday at a film festival, but obviously this is a little bit different today. Since we want to sing you a song. Hey.
Oh, wow.
Did we miss the Q&A? What happened?
Everybody.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday, dear
Birthday, dear Anderson.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Birthday, Anderson.
Birthday, Anderson.
Happy birthday. Guys. It's over. I'm very touched. Thank you so much, guys. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Happy birthday.
Communications. I'm leaving now. Bye. Bye. Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye.
Is it too late to do? Is there no more Q&A though?
Done.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.